Well, that was a lovely day today. So here I am continuing No Naked Walls, section 1, so you want to own an art gallery. And I start with chapter 8. Green, any shade you like. To be a good painter entails mixing your paints that the palette blends and swirls and every brushstroke has a form wherein the colour hangs perfectly. Never use green straight from a tube. Always mix the blues and the yellows. Utter crap and bollocks, says the painter of the hills. It's true, there are hundreds of tubes and blocks, all of them green. The reality is that you have to understand the rules to be able to break them. The trouble with owning a gallery is that you don't have time to paint. You're too busy finding artists of quality to sell. Mind you, I have a secret weapon, a wonderful lady. She's an artist and a sculptor, and there's been there, as they say. She's had public commissions, museum exhibitions, and has written several books, but now she feels the time is right to excavate her home and studio and put her life in order. I suppose I should also mention that she chain smokes and has the most sexy gravelly voice to go with it. The downside is her attachment to one of those awful little attitudinal rats. Yes, a miniature dog that constantly snivels and barks at everything, whether it moves or stays static. She loves it. It's her pet, her beloved companion, and a bloody smelly pain in the whatsits. Let's do lunch, she says on the phone. If you're coming out this far, you must eat, and we can't stay in. The kitchen ceiling collapsed last week, and I'm still waiting for the builders to turn up. Seemed perfectly logical to me. She adds, I know a quaint old-fashioned tea room where they serve nice food. Lovely, I say. Look forward to meeting you. And I offer to pick her up. Oh no, she says. Dipsy only likes my car. I shall meet you there. It's easy to find. She gives me an address and vague navigational instructions, and I duly and vaguely get lost and can't find the place. As the area is one of outstanding natural beauty, there's not a single soul to ask, let alone a sign indicating there might be a cafe somewhere nearby. I stop the car and get out. Luckily, I come across an old chap walking his dog, although I think in truth the dog is dragging the chap along so that the man can have some exercise. You lost? He asks. How do they do that? Power of the bleeding obvious. I'm looking for the teapot and whistle. Oh, it's not far, he says, but you won't be able to take your car this way. It's over the ridge by the tree. You can just see the smoke. Was it burning down then, I thought? How do I get there by car? Whoa, it's easier to walk from here, he says. Fair enough, I give in, placing urban thinking in the glove box and locking it away. It seems I have to climb over a small fence with barbed wire and stroll across the field to the next hedge, which would be easy except that it suddenly fills up with very woolly sheep. By the mass of wool and dung attached to their lower haunches, I assume they're waiting to be sheared, so I slowly set off with about 150 eyes staring at me. I've never, ever had such an attentive audience. Then one of the sheep decides to begin moving after me, hastily followed by the rest of the flock. Miraculously, as I quicken my step, the sheep do the same. I'm being followed by a horde of future jumpers and lamb chops. Now, if this was a playing field, I dare say I might run for it, but it certainly isn't. There are holes and nettles and dung piles everywhere, and something akin to bouncing is more in order, something sheep are much better suited to than I am, I discover. Eventually I win the sheep's hurdles by climbing over the next fence. The sheep stop by the barbed wire, looking bemused. Bastards. Well, here it is, the quaint tea shop, in the faded glory of its pre-war splendour. It should be the gathering place for nannies wearing petticoats and frills, pushing the prams of their infant charges. But the building looks like it was last decorated in the 1940s, and not a lick of paint seen since. A sign with faded headings indicates that the service of fresh sandwiches and tea daily. There are 6 old wrought iron tables with matching chairs splattered in the dishevelled array in the garden. Most lean over to a precarious degree, and it would appear lunch might involve a balancing act. Hello, I'm over here. I can't see anybody. In the corner, Dipsy likes the view. I make my way over to the corner of the garden, and sure enough, sitting on one of the chairs is Dipsy next to her owner. A lovely day to be outdoors and such stunning views for a dog to enjoy. I spy landscape, rolling hills and more sheep. The sun plays his part too, imparting brightly gilded tones to the green fields. Lovely! I take one of the chairs and try to find a level area to sit on. A rather well-preserved lady stumbles out to take our order. I recommend the soup. It's fresh. And what sandwiches would you like? We have cheese or fresh crab. Sounds dubious to me. The crab would have had to have walked a long way from the sea to be fresh. So it's 2 cheese, 2 soup and a bowl of water for the dog. An easy order to remember, you might think. There's no choice of salad or bread alternatives, just simple rustic fare. I bet they don't get many American tourists here, I say. I'm not fond of them. They're all loud and brash, said Sally. We become embroiled in the politics of art and galleries and how the world doesn't understand. My mission is to agree with everything she says and then worm my way into viewing Sally's art. My timing is obviously off when I raise the matter. I'm not interested anymore, she says. It's all stored and I can't be bothered to unpack it. I begin to think that my quest to find another artist has already ended in forlorn failure, but all is not lost. The soup manages to stay in the bowl mostly, and Sally tells me about 2 great friends of hers who don't live too far away. She's already prepared a note for me with the relevant information, sliding it carefully over to my side of the table as if playing at secret agents. Ring them, she says, lighting yet another cigarette. The atmosphere changes completely. Sally begins to interview me, asking me way too many personal questions with the excitement of a teenager. She even broaches the vexed subject of my sex life, but soon stops when I don't respond. I daren't even begin to think what's going on inside her head, you know. And after a while she smiles and asks, fancy some cake? I have to admit, she has a certain charm about her. We finish the afternoon rendezvous, and being a gentleman, I walk her back to her car and close the door. Now, the next challenge is how to get back to my vehicle. So I stroll back into the cafe and ask the owner how I can locate my car without having to challenge a field of sheep. Apparently, a quick stroll up the lane, a few turns right, and voila, it remains to be seen. May I use your landline? My mobile doesn't seem to connect out here. With pleasure, the head waiter, cook and cashier replies. I lift the rather old, sticky telephone and placing it gingerly to my ear, dial a number. Hello, I've been given your name by Sally, who said I should contact you. I have a new gallery. May I come and visit? I know it's short notice, but I am in the area. There's a moment pause, followed by, OK. No more sheep, no more fields, no more hedge hopping. I managed to find the home of Patricia and Peter with relative ease. It's a magnificent 4-story Victorian building overlooking the most dramatic landscape. You can see it for miles. They're both artists, and they've resolved into their individual requirements for studio space by each having a separate floor allocated to their work. No need for passport control or intellectual boundaries. Cup of tea, ducky? Kettle's just boiled. Patricia has stunning silver grey hair. Of medium height, she's impish in her movements and has the most piercing of dark eyes. One could say that she probably retains a good figure too, albeit hidden in the black woolen roll-neck jumper and loose black trousers. Peter too favours black attire, but he looks older. His stubble is at least 3 days vintage, but his careworn face is friendly and topped by wild curly hair. The house contains an eclectic array of art, furniture and wall hangings. You could lose yourself for a day at least wandering around. Sally said I should come and meet you. Bet you didn't get anything out of her in the way of art, Peter smiles. We're very fond of her, but that bloody hound goes everywhere with her and it stinks. True enough, but she's a most interesting lady. Well, we sit around an old wooden farm table, indulging in fresh scones smothered in homemade jam, washed down with freshly ground coffee. The wonderful truth is I'm rapidly lost in awe as to the knowledge and the amazing amount of friendly way in which they're treating their guests. We talk for hours. It's effortless, and losing track of time is de rigueur. Patricia finally looks up at the large kitchen clock and offers to show me her studio. We trundle up 2 flights of stairs, passing a great collection of mounted drawings, and enter her sanctuary. There are more enormous drawings pinned to the walls with tacks, and the work is abstract with intent, Lots of notes are pinned up too, and silk and other materials are strewn everywhere. The massive bay window lets in superb daylight over a huge plant chest. I really have seen nothing like her stuff before. It may be challenging, but I fall in love with its drama and colour. "Do you sell your work?" I asked innocently. "Well, I tend to exhibit more," she says. "I create for myself most of the time. Why? Do you think these would sell?" "Well, I'd love to try," I offer. She opens one of her drawers in the plant chest. It's stuffed with sketches and prints. I always make lino cuts. They're fascinating after all the work I do on these large pieces. I find them powerful, and I tell her. Most of the tapestries are rolled up in the attic. You'll have to come again to see those. Then, dismissed, I'm told to look at her husband's work on the next floor. Peter starts, apologetically. "My wife's the artist. I'm a mere painter." He looks like a painter. He has paint splashes all over his black cotton tracksuit bottoms. His smock is adorned with the odd splash of paint too, and I can't help noticing a nurse's watch pinned to his chest. "It's for telling the time when I get lost," he laughs. Peter is at a totally opposite end of the spectrum to his wife. His work is of bold landscapes and bright colours, huge daubs of paint slapped on and over large amounts of canvas. There are a series of 6 2-foot canvases hanging next to each other, balanced precariously on nails. "Work in progress," he says. "I love to work in a series." This man knows how to paint. "I have a dealer who looks after me, but I'll let you try a couple in your new gallery." Double success. In the adjacent rooms, everything is so organised: bookshelves full of art, books, boxes of paints, colour-coded catalogues, filing folders in alphabetical order, and in the middle of the room, a flat drawing easel bearing a calm watercolour, completely different to the style in the first studio. All I can think is, I so wish I could paint like that. We begin to talk watercolours, and I say, "I can't help noticing you use a lot of green." I taught everyone not to use them at university, to mix the colours, but you know what? Break the rules. If they're there, use them. It seems easy advice he's giving, but believe me, you need to understand how to expertly balance tones to know which rules to break. I suppose after nearly 40 years at it, he knows. This is going to be more like just selling the work. I feel like I've found a mentor. Above all else, he's willing to show me without making me feel like a total prat. It's the most positive and interesting day since leaving school, and that for me was many years ago. We decide which paintings I can take, and I load them in my car before he can change his mind. And then returning to Patricia's studio, I collect some of her works on paper, place them carefully in a folder, and thence convey them to the car. I make my farewells, and I tell them how much I look forward to seeing them in my gallery. I really must thank Sally for the introduction, despite the altercation with the 4-legged woolly creatures. I drive off in the dark with a couple of hours to get home, feeling like a cat that's eaten all the cream, and quite possibly the canary too. Thank you. The next chapter, chapter 9, is called Real Black Leather. I'm lost in the world of computerised paperwork. It's no mean task for someone who's dyslexic, and I hate every minute of it. It's the painful side of owning and running your own business. How anyone gets excited over spreadsheets and yearly accounts fails me, just as long as I'm making enough money to survive. The interruption is a large black presence filling the doorway. It's all right if the lady and me have a butcher's? There stands a giant of a man, easily 6'6" or more. His long black hair, an unruly overgrown beard. It's almost a cliche to report that he's wearing a leather jacket replete with emblems and studs. Without counting, there have to be at least 10 rings on his fingers. Beside him is a tiny, dyed blonde lass wearing an exceptionally tight t-shirt over a rather amply magnified pair of breasts, held up by the grace of God. Come on in. I'm not going to argue with them, let alone try to stop him. It's nearly midday. Fancy a cup of tea or something stronger? Coffee, please. No sugar. An innocuous request from a man the sight of whom on a dark night would make you think about crossing to the other side of the road for safety's sake. His lady giggles and asks for water. It's surreal. A flag in the veil of half a dozen tequila slammers might appear a more appropriate drinks order. Golden rule, never ever judge a book by its cover. She stops in front of a nude, a charcoal study. My tits are better than hers. The giant lightly pats her behind. It too is straining a very tight pair of denims. She continues checking the paintings and stops at a foreground landscape, one of my classical pieces. Oh, that looked lovely in the lounge, Gate. He simply produces an American Express black card. Wrap it up, please. I'll be back later. Can't take it on me hog. I'm astounded, and for once I keep my mouth firmly shut. Thank you. Regaining my composure, I pull out a signed catalogue of the artist and offer it up as a token of my appreciation. See you later. They leave with her arm up through his. Let me tell you, now, sales never happen like that. I only pray a few more do. I might make a living if they did. Maybe I'll have a sign above the door, Bikers Welcome, especially with Hell's Angel art appreciation chapters in mind. And just before closing, Gate strides back in, and the company this time. Evening, remember me? Let me think, how many money-spending giant bikers have I served today, or any day? Indeed I do. I rang the artist and told him the good news. He says he'd like to write a little piece and drop it into you to go with the painting. He told me to say the scene is looking out over the Cotswolds. Oh, that's good. She's from round those parts. He places the wrapped painting under his arm and leaves me to it. Not a bad day, eh? Now, about a month later, Gate returns on his own. I'm sure you're a master of discretion, he says. I smile. It's all part of the job. The old lady wants a painting for her home. Well, that's not so difficult. Look around. We do have quite a selection and a stock room out the back just in case. Gate coughs and leans over to me. That lady wasn't my missus. And you haven't seen me before, okay? He stops for a moment's thought. She means a lot to me, though, and I want to treat her to something special, too. I nod in total approval. Later that day, Gate and wife come into the gallery and are greeted as new but welcome strangers. Belinda stares at the biker in his full leathers, but totally composed, offers him a selection of drinks. 2 white wines are duly served. We're looking for something for our lounge. Sounds familiar, I think. Have you something in mind, like a particular style or colour? Well, it's got to be big, said Mrs. Gate. Follow me. I think a visit to the stock room is in order. Gate's wife is almost a spitting image of his lady friend, except perhaps a year or 2 older. I believe I should have a word about my stockroom. It's long and full of shelving, hiding just the right paintings for the right customer. It boasts no windows and has an exquisite oil paint and varnish smell, entwined with a hint of cardboard. I pull out 3 huge canvases, 2 abstract and the more or less contemporary landscape. Gate looks at me in disbelief. I assume buying bikes is a lot easier. If you like, I can bring them round to your home and you can test drive them. Brilliant! Gate's expression clearly says, I'm not sure I want you coming round to my house. Back in the main gallery, I let Belinda lead the conversation. Did you see anything you like? Ooh, he's quite cute, says the wife, nodding her head in my direction, but he's not big enough for me. There is something about tall men, agrees Belinda. When would you like me to come round? I say, opening the diary. I'm free Wednesday or Thursday. Well, why don't you both come round for a bite? 7 p.m. on Thursday. Perfect. Address confirmed and time too. At no point does Gate ask how much anything costs. Will you bring that nude picture over there, Mrs. Gate adds. With pleasure, and thank you. They both leave and I look at Belinda. You never can tell a book by its cover. Oh, isn't he fab? I just love his hair, she says. Thursday comes and we both go for a bite and a pleasant surprise. We arrive close to 7. Always be early, never late. The house looks quite small on the outside, but it's a rabbit warren inside, extending way into what must have once been all back garden. It's immaculately tidy and minimal. Gate has a top-of-the-range white wooden kitchen and black granite surfaces and a massive American 2-door fridge. Everything is in straight out of the showroom condition. Have you just moved in, I ask. Nah, but we just finished the whole house from top to bottom. Would you like to see around? We're going to get the full tour. Gate opens a bottle of champagne and fills 4 pewter tankards. Tastes great out of these, mate, and keeps it cold. Cheers. Now come and see my den. So we exit through the French doors down a cobbled path to be confronted by a steel padlocked shed. Gate opens up, switches on the light and... Wow! What we're looking at is a neatly organised room with equipment and tools hanging from the walls. 4 huge motorbikes stand there gleaming and sparkling, and each bike is polished black and dazzling chrome. These are my ladies. Gate can stand without stooping in his shed despite his height. I feel like a kid in a sweet shop. If I ask if I can sit on the chopper with the extended handlebars, I'm unsurprised to be declined, but can't help a surge of disappointment. Just thought you might like to see them, says Gate. He switches off the light and resecures the building. Back in the house, Mrs. Gate takes over. I want the nude in our bedroom and the picture of the squiggles in the hall. Then I think the colourful one would look great in the lounge behind the couch. Methinks we've become hanging assistants. She knows exactly what she wants and where to put it. And that one's going upstairs in the chill room, done and dusted by the sounds of things. Oh. Belinda and I hang the paintings except for the nude. The bedroom is off limits apparently. I'll hang that one later, says Gate. Are you sure, says Belinda. I just know she wants to see the giant's nocturnal domain. Let's eat, says Mrs. Gate, and I'll show you the bedroom later. We sit in the lounge, and from nowhere she produces platters of cured meats, cheeses, and a massive bowl of salad. Tuck in, she says. All out of a packet. God bless the supermarket, says Gate. At some point in the evening, Gate says they'll have all the paintings. He still hasn't raised the issue of the prices. I'll call in and sort out the payment, mate. That's fine, I say, offering my hand to close the sale. Duly shaken, we bid them goodbye, and with thanks for the hospitality. I was driving for at least 5 minutes before Belinda says a word. I never got to see their bedroom. I rest my case. I suppose you'd like to know how this deal concludes. Normally, I never discuss clients' confidentiality, but for you, dear readers, the total came to a lot. He comes in and pays as he said he would. The name on the card he uses is Mr. S. Smith. Gate? I ask, raising an obligatory eyebrow. It's a long story. Well, thank you for your custom. You got to keep the woman happy, he smiles. Not Belinda, though. She still wants to see their bedroom. Maybe she'll get a chance another time. I must admit, I can't help wondering where all that money comes from. But you know what? Their job looks stunning. With their new paintings, job done. Who are we to question? Thank you very much. See you next time.